She's been fighting for years, and we're grateful to have her standing with us on this side of history.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure to be here today. Again, my name is Lee Dundas, and I am a human rights attorney. And on this weekend, where we are gathered to honor our fallen men and women in the military who made the ultimate sacrifice, I want to share with you a story about courage that comes from the human trafficking work I do in Asia, if that's all right with you. When I was first doing this work in 2013, I encountered a teenage girl who ultimately became my assistant after she had been trafficked. She had been kidnapped off of a bus bench in rural Thailand, knocked unconscious with a narcotic agent, and when she awakened, she was in a slave trading camp where people came to buy human slaves on the Thailand-Burmese border. That's where she woke up. And one day in this camp, the guards in this camp decided they were going to start having a little fun and executing the young girls in this camp. And they lined them up in a firing line, and they made them kneel down, and they went girl to girl, putting guns to temples. And when they would get to each girl, the girl would grab for the gun and beg for her life to no avail. And when my assistant first told the story, she stopped when she got to this point. For my part, I was dumbstruck, speechless, and crying in a high-rise in Bangkok in 2013. And I looked at this woman, this young lady, and I said, "What did you do when the guards got to you?" And she said, "I stood up and I reached out my hand to the guard and I said, 'Give me your gun. I don't want to live like this anymore. I will shoot myself.'" That is what she said. And when the owner of the camp was walking by, he overheard this exchange, and he looked at my assistant, who was 12 or 13 years old at the time, and he said, "You, follow me back to my office." And he sat her down and he said, "I've been doing this for years, and every single person when a gun is pointed at their temple will beg for their life, and you didn't, and I want to know why." And my young assistant looked at me and she told me what she said to him. She got up on her feet a second time and she reached out her hand a second time and she said, "I know you have a gun in your desk drawer. Give it to me and I will shoot myself." And the owner of that slave camp looked at her for 3 or 4 more seconds, leaned back in his chair and he said, "Get out of here, you're free to go." And I learned that day in Bangkok a lesson in courage that I have never forgotten, which is this: when you are staring into the face of tyranny, you stand the hell up, because you stand the hell up, because you are much better off being prepared to die on your feet than living a life on your damned knees. Our work in this great nation and in our state, ladies and gentlemen, is nowhere near done right now. If you haven't heard, they are building quarantine camps in LA County right now. They are putting COVID checkpoints on our streets, like a DUI checkpoint, but to force you to take a test. And last week in Palo Alto, the very first brigade of volunteer contact tracers started going door to door to people's houses, asking them questions. Despite the fact that our children have zero risk of death from this disease, they want to put our children in masks. They want to make them be socially distant from each other with 6 feet of distance at all times. They want them to not go outside, not go to recess, not go on field trips, and never experience the blessing of human touch in their classrooms again. That is what they are proposing. I have said it before. before, and I will say it one more time. Social distancing is a euphemism for social isolation. It was developed 70 years ago by the CIA, and it is deployed against enemies of the state because it is more effective at breaking a person down than any form of physical torture. Did you know that? Social distancing and social isolation is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day and being an alcoholic. We would be better off sending our kids to homeroom with a pack and a half of cigarettes and a fifth of vodka. And to the CDC, excuse me for a second. You can only yell for so long in 90-degree heat without a sip of water. To the CDC, who came out 2 days ago and said what they said, I have some words for you. To hell with you and the horse you rode in on. We sprayed our military in Vietnam with Agent Orange. We sprayed ourselves with DDT because men in power at agencies like the CDC and federal and state agencies told us it was safe, and they lied to us. And I will be damned if I am going to let our government deploy protocols they used to break down prisoners of war against kindergartners in our classrooms. I come from a military family. My father was U.S. Navy, my grandfather was U.S. Navy, and he had not one but 2 ships bombed out from under him in World War II. And the second time he went down, he swam through 7 miles of rough ocean, half of which was on fire, to get back to the beach. And you know what? Most of his colleagues, most of his brothers in arms in the military weren't so lucky. They didn't make it home. They did not make it home. I was raised that you do not ever sell out the freedom that they died protecting. It is not going to happen on my watch. I got news for you folks. Our enemy today isn't foreign. Our enemy is not crawling through the jungles of Vietnam, waiting to cut down a military chopper coming into a hot landing zone. They are not lying in wait like the Germans did for us, for our guys to get off the boats on D-Day and swim into the beaches of Normandy. Our enemy right now is right here on our own soil. It is here on our own soil in the form of mask wearing and social distancing for our children. It is here in the form of endless lockdowns that are breaking the back of the mothers and fathers and workers in this country that gave their all and pay our taxes to put people in that house. And if we are going to truly honor the veterans and the men who died defending our freedom, we need to be prepared to take the same oath they did and to live it and die it. And that is, you better be prepared to protect and defend liberty and your country and your freedom and your United States Constitution